Okay, so this is skeletal muscle. We have a resting membrane potential.
Mm-hmm.
We open ligand-gated channels, voltage-gated channels, action potential, right? Cardiac. We have our threshold. In the SA node, we just have our pacemaker potential, right? So we don't really have this flat resting membrane potential because we're never standing still.
Mm-hmm.
So then the SA node depolarizes, and then we're right back to the pacemaker potential. Okay? But in most cardiac cells, we have our threshold. The pacemaker, SA node is going to trigger us to get to threshold, right? So we would be, let's say we normally be depolarizing on our own because of those open sodium channels.
Mm-hmm.
But when that action potential comes from the SA node, we kind of get a sudden increase and we get to threshold. Book doesn't show it like that, but it kind of helps illustrate the point. Right, we would be going on our own, but then SA node jumps in and we go even faster. Okay? So then at threshold, what happens with cardiac muscle?
Sodium channels open.
Good. Sodium channels flip wide open, and that gives us,
And calcium channels start.
They start
right?
opening.
good, calcium channels started opening here.
Yeah.
And what's going on with potassium channels right now?
They're still
They're
closed.
closed.
They're closed. Good. So sodium opened up, calcium started to open, not open enough for calcium to get through yet, but it's open.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could open the door this far, but I'm not going to be able to fit through the door still. Okay? So that was right here at threshold. Sodium channels open, calcium channels start to open, and potassium's closed. So then what happens at the top?
Calcium channels are
Plateau.
open.
The sodium channel's closed.
So sodium channels close first, otherwise we keep going up, right?
Yeah.
So sodium channels closed. So that gives us a stop.
Potassium begin open.
Potassium begins opening, and so we get a little bit of a drop here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a super steep drop yet because not all potassium's open, but they started opening,
Mm-hmm.
and some are open now, and potassium leaks out. Okay? Then what?
Calcium channels are open. and-
Good.
Yeah, it's fully open.
Good. Now those calcium channels have finally opened up, and so the amount of potassium going out and the amount of calcium coming in equals out, and we get that plateau effect.
Okay.
Okay? So from here to here is 2 milliseconds. 2,000ths of a second.
Should we know that?
Know the concept. Maybe not necessarily the numbers, but the concept. So we always see this, right?
Yeah.
Because to the end of plateau is 500 milliseconds. I literally have to draw this around the room and come back, and then we would have, you know, to be accurate. So we just put this break in there and say, that's 500 milliseconds. So plateau lasts, I mean, it's a full half a second. For an action potential, that's a long time. Okay, and then what happens after plateau?
Calcium channels closed.
Good, so potassium's still open, and those calcium channels, they're slow still, so they start closing. If they close right away, we just get this straight drop down, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're still kind of slow, so they're starting to close, and then finally they close and we get a lot faster drop.
So in the plateau phase, are the potassium channels fully open?
Mm-hmm. Potassium's all the way open and calcium's all the way open. It's just that, you know, if you think of charge, calcium has a charge of +2, right? Calcium or potassium has a charge of +1. So basically, for every 2 potassium that are leaving the cell, 1 calcium is coming in, and so it's equalizing. Calcium, you know, starts to leave, then we get back down. And once we get back down to here, what happens?
Goes back up. Sodium opens, potassium closes.
Yeah, so potassium is gonna be closed, otherwise we'd still go down.
Mm-hmm.
And then our normals, I mean, throughout this whole process, there's those few sodium channels that are just always open. They never close. There's no gates on them to close. So then we're just gonna slowly start going back up till SA node kicks in again and we do it all over.
So with like the actual heart usually though, you were talking about, these are just within each cell.
Yeah, that's just one cell. Because this cell hits threshold when other sodium ions come in and make it more positive, right?
Yeah.
So when this one depolarizes, then it's gonna have a bunch of sodium rush in, and some of that sodium is gonna leak over to the next cell.
Yeah.
So really, you're gonna have one, so, I mean, if we were to draw them all out, you'd have, you'd kind of be, I don't know how fast they'd be, but something kind of like this. Each be a different cell depolarizing.
Okay.
So it's not all at the exact same time, but it's so fast that it's like it is.
Okay.